Good evening and welcome to Sunday Politics on Trust TV. I am Shafi'u Suleiman. Tonight, we dive into the recent call on the Nigerian government to reclaim the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula by seeking a review of the 2002 International Court of Justice (ICJ) ruling that handed the disputed region to Cameroon after years of bilateral standoff between Nigeria and the Anglophone country. Though some legal experts say the 10-year window available for Nigeria to call for the review of the judgment may have elapsed, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mohammed Inderani Mohammed, has recently urged President Bola Tinubu to revisit the ICJ ruling. The legal expert said Nigeria can revisit the case based on the fact that the ruling was predicated on what he called the unratified 1913 Anglo-German agreement, a crux of the legal argument presented by the Cameroon before the International Court. Now, can Nigeria revisit this landmark ICJ ruling despite its implementation by the Goodluck Jonathan administration in 2008? Now, joining us to navigate the issues is Barrister Chukwudi Odoeme, a professor of international law. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, always.
And okay, it's good to have you once again on the platform.
Thank you so much.
I think straight away we can go into the conversation. This, to many, it will sound, may look like a surprise now. After 22 years, this Bakassi oil-rich peninsula, the case is yet to be laid to rest. People still talk about it and cited reasons why Nigeria should revisit. At some point, I think during the Jonathan administration, there were also calls on the government to review this judgment, and it even set up a committee. But in the end, it has to, yield to, the fact that there is need to cede this peninsula, officially, and that was done in 2008. Do you see any justification, or rather, do you think there is a ground for this renewed calls?
I think there's a ground for this renewed call. And let me start by saying that the ghost of the Bakassi Peninsula is haunting Nigeria now. It hasn't gone to rest. If you look at the significance of that oil-rich peninsula and the activities leading to ceding it to Cameroon, you will see that there are a whole lot that that needs to be talked about. The whole truth has not been said about what happened, and this is coming from the background of what we got from the the recent the PNID case.
Okay.
Where we noticed
that review actually perhaps triggered this.
Yes. What we noticed there were some indiscrepancies and the indiscretions that were, and certain other things that were not properly done by the Minister of Justice in dealing with those issues. So while it may have taken a while, the beauty of international law and international relations per se is that nothing is cast in stone. Is your ability to persuade. Your ability to flex your sovereignty muscles that gives you what you want in that arena. Nothing is right, nothing is exactly wrong.
Isn't there a time frame for that? For instance, there's this 10-year window which was said to have elapsed. That was in 2012 or so. Didn't you think now perhaps the case may be started by, as you say?
Yeah, it may be, but then I'm saying that arena is a different arena. It's not the local jurisdiction we're dealing with here.
Okay. And then the grounds are different.
Not exactly.
The basics, if you like.
Yes. The forum is different.
Right.
The forum is different, and then the issues involved. There are certain issues that have not been settled up to this moment, which I think may even be better grounds for the review of the judgment, or even going back to the court afresh. And that revolves with the original inhabitants of Bakassi. Who are the original inhabitants of Bakassi? Where were they not put into consideration during that judgment? Which country did they owe an allegiance?
That they were not even given the opportunity for a plebiscite, for instance, to decide where they belong.
Yes.
So it was more of a blanket kind of arrangement. 90% were said to be, originally Nigerians
Yes.
from Cross River.
Yes,
Right?
they are majority. Even had a senator representing them in the Senate, in the Nigerian Senate, Eta Gewa.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so I think that angle has not been thoroughly explored. It was ignored in that judicial exercise, and I think that even if the Nigerian state, as a state, may not ask for a review, the people of that region, the regional inhabitants of Bakassi, who have been displaced and not been, up to this moment have not been properly integrated.
Yeah.
Yes, they
We're
do.
Talking about international politics or international, more of an international issue now.
They do.
So the inhabitants can also seek
They
review.
do. The United Nations recognizes the right of peoples and nations. There's a difference between peoples and nations and countries. The United Nations recognizes their right to self-determination. So if Nigeria is not willing to carry them along, they can as well seek to be a country of their own. We have countries that are smaller than Bakassi.
Sao Tome is there.
Sao Tome and Principe is there. There's one called Vul whatever.
Right.
There's even the Vatican City. These are small countries that would be competing with Bakassi, and with what they have, the oil on that ground, they could do quite a lot.
But what will happen to what will be the implication of that? Because Nigeria has already, agreed on, ceded, if you like, this region and so on. And then that was also done based on the outcome of the ruling. So if that is done and properly done at that level of international, I understand the United Nations was also involved in all of that. So you think with all that happened, Nigeria can still revisit it?
Like I said earlier, Nigeria may not, as a state, go back.
Okay.
But there are people within Nigeria who have particular interest in that region that has not been settled. Let me draw your attention. Let me just take you back to a bit history so that we can situate this discussion properly.
Yeah.
If you recall that the crust of that ICJ judgment on Bakassi Peninsula was based on the 1913 Anglo-German Treaty.
Agreement, yeah.
So under the what is called the theory of succession of state, every new state has a right to choose which agreements to accept from the old before which agreements or treaties entered into before independence, to which to accept or not.
Okay.
And this Anglo-German treaty was one of them. Nigeria didn't enter into that Anglo-German treaty as a state.
As an independent
As an independent state. It was the colonial masters that did that for Nigeria.
Okay.
And then if you look back to history also, there are certain countries in the world who have, based on this theory, done a few things that the international law will frown out, but accepted. China had done that with this relationship with Taiwan and Mongolia.
Yeah.
Israel has done that. North Korea has done that. Korea as a republic has done that. Pakistan has done that. A whole lot of them.
Right.
So it's not really closed.
Yeah. Looking at the basis of this renewed call, this lawyer talking about Mohammed Indrani Mohammed, he cited this point. He said that Nigerian government failed to understand the point of argument on the expression Rio del Rey rather than Rio dos or something.
Yes.
Nigeria failed to argue that Germany didn't expressly demarcate the area of litigation in the Bakassi Peninsula before ceding in the alleged treaty, the Anglophone Treaty.
Yeah, those are the issues that can be looked at again.
Yeah.
What that Rio del Rey means is a river.
Okay.
So one of them is that there was a movement away from the original, what was supposed to be the original boundary at that Rio del Rey into what is called the Apan Yal River.
Rio dos, yeah.
Which made it possible for the better part of Bakassi to go into Cameroon. So these are some of the issues that can be looked at again.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, but looking at the fact that Nigerians, the authorities then were at the ICJ at Hague, to present Nigeria, and they were given all the opportunity to defend the. I remember then Nigeria's foreign affairs minister was. I can't remember the name now. They were actually up and doing to ensure that the judgment is in favor of Nigeria, but in the end, the superior argument, so to speak, prevailed.
It wasn't a case of superior argument. I must draw your attention to. This is one of the issues I raised with my professor who taught me a lot of this.
Jibola, right?
Yes, this is one of the issues I discussed with my professor who taught me a lot of the sea, Professor Oye Chukura of blessed memory.
Right.
He was part of the Nigerian team, and I engaged him in a class in the teaching of in the class of law of the sea.
Right.
And these issues came up, and he quickly withdrew what he was telling us about that. Nigeria did not do its best.
Okay.
And at the risk of sounding immodest, it is on record that Nigerians do not exactly represent us when they travel abroad. I may not have facts to tell you now, but the indices are there, including this P and ID that I'm telling you about. So then again,
are you saying that they represent their interest rather than the interest of the country? Or what,
I wouldn't want to go into that for certain reasons. They may not put in their best.
There are also arguments along that line. Even the P and ID, there were some Nigerians that were said to have, worked towards, or rather help those guys to change Nigeria. Also.
That's correct. That's correct. And I would not be I would not be surprised if that was what happened
at the ICJ.
But then there's something to take note of.
Right.
Historically, there's this saying, I might not be able to confirm it, that it was part of the arrangement of the Nigerian government to cede that territory to Cameroon as a pay for their efforts in letting them win the Biafran War. And if you recall the role played by Obasanjo in the Biafran War, and he was the president who signed the Green Tree Agreement, ceding that territory to Cameroon, you begin to see that maybe from the prism of conspiracy theory that could be possible.
Several perspectives to that. Some say the former president may have done that to earn, what they call the Nobel Peace Prize or so. I remember at some point the former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, did mention that. He said that the former president was actually did what he did, allegedly, to earn that accolade, international accolade. But there wasn't facts to substantiate that. So you are coming with another perspective now. Looking at it generally, the succeeding administration of President Goodluck Jonathan was also there. I was also told to review this judgment, and it's assembled a team of experts. Some top legal luminaries, had the opinion that Nigeria cannot revisit this judgment. I remember the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, at some point also mentioned that. So on what basis do you think they are looking at the matter?
I don't know I can't remember what that team comprised of, but I think that if you want a detailed analysis of whether we can or we cannot go, any team that must be set must have at least 50% academia. Researchers, not just not just
practitioners.
Legal practitioners. Teachers are also legal practitioners, but researchers, law teachers. The reason is that there's need for us to think outside the box. For us to identify and deal with these issues critically. So those opinions are neither here nor there.
Right.
And I'm saying that at the time Jonathan Goodluck did that thing, the Green Tree Agreement has been signed already. So any analysis that starts from the Green Tree Agreement or looking at the black and white letters of the ICJ judgment on the Bakassi may not achieve the objective we are looking at on this table.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, looking at you earlier mentioned the inhabitants, as a critical stake, perhaps a critical party to this, and can also. I remember the paramount chief of that, peninsula, has severally kicked against the judgment. Vehemently, he said that there was originally, looking at historical perspective, there was nothing that aligned them with, the Cameroon, so to speak. He said 90% of the people are Nigerians, and even at the point of that judgment, they were still Nigerians, and in fact, they prepared to remain in Nigeria. When they were given the opportunity, they still remain in Nigeria. So, but looking at what is happening, after the judgment and after the ceding of the peninsula, they were subjected to, allegedly several inhumane treatment and so on. They were made to pay taxes and so on against their wish. So looking at the ground you are not talking about, that they have a ground they can also seek a review on. How are they going to approach this?
Yeah, let me say that beyond that, those who stayed back in Bakassi paying taxes to Cameroon, those who were returned to Nigeria have not been settled up to today.
Yeah, the settlement matter.
What it means is that the case has literally not ended.
Okay.
And it brings out a new vista for even Cross River State or the indigenous people of Bakassi who are resettled in Nigeria and those of them who remain back in Cameroon to seek a UN intervention, which I say is a possibility. I remember when my friend John Gall was a speaker of the Cross River Assembly, I reached him to see whether I can do a paper for us to review these issues, and that thing didn't see the light of day. But I'm thinking that that's still a possibility. The people of Bakassi can organize themselves. Okay. I mean, those who are returned from Bakassi to Nigeria, and those who stayed back there who want to return their citizenship of Nigeria can get a council themselves and go back to the UN, starting from the UN, to seek self-determination for themselves. Okay. And that is a possibility.
But you think Nigeria will allow that? Just recently, the federal government is saying that no region, of this country, I mean, the issue of succession is long gone, is buried, It's not something that anybody should even contemplate. So do you think such will happen under this kind of environment? Those
are the issues that are living in international law. There's a territory in which country again? There's a territory in Canada. The indigenous people of Canada are still up to it today, going to the UN to seek their own special rights. This has been on for more than 50 years. They have not stopped. So what the national constitution says stands. But then certain rights and privileges that are inuring to the people from the international law, can also be discussed. I'm not saying that they should wake up one morning and say they're no longer member or part of Nigeria. No, I'm not saying that. But then the country Nigeria has not, met their needs, creating a new needs that needs to be met. So I'm thinking that they can.
But they still
approach this Nigerian state.
Their allegiance is still with Nigeria, and they have recognized authorities. You talked about earlier the representative they had at the national level.
Sure.
Right now, I mean, quite a number of them are in Cross River State, which is a state in Nigeria.
Yes.
So, I mean, they are more like, law-abiding citizens, but they've been looking up to the authorities, to do the needful. I remember there was this shuttle between the Bakassi and the presidency by the parliament ruler at some point, in trying to get the authorities, especially the issue of resettling the people. Now, quite a number of them are still living in
primary schools,
makeshift
arrangements. Yes.
Yeah. So, but why should this be so? Looking at the number of years this has taken.
Those are the things that are giving rise to this present discussion. Yeah. If they've been properly integrated into Nigeria, I'm sure this issue will not come up again.
Okay.
But this is the consequences of that action that is still hanging in the air. Yeah. Necessitating the need to revisit this Bakassi Peninsula issue.
Yeah, I thought it was more of economic, value, if you like, because the argument is that the resources beneath that peninsula, oil and so on and so forth, and then looking at the fact that Nigeria, is grappling with issues, challenges around paucity of funds and so on, and then such a rich region, according to this lawyer, shouldn't have been, given on the platter of gold like that.
You're right. That's an interesting part of this conversation, or this conversation and the incident that is happening. Nigerian government can, let me use the word for want of a better word, hide under the indigenous people of Bakassi and revisit the matter.
Okay.
Yes, give them lawyers. Yeah. Give them scholars who can develop an argument for them and go back to the UN.
But people like you can also do a pro bono, for instance.
I'll be willing to do that.
Yeah. So because what happened to the PNID, I think it wasn't it wasn't initiated by Nigeria, but some international went in, and then they were able to secure this reversal or so.
Yes. I'll be willing to offer free services for this. I'll be willing to write a position paper on it, and I'll be willing to follow it up to the letter.
Yeah. Okay. Looking at the because this has also an international politics dimension now. Nigeria is seen as big brother in Africa and all of that. And then at the point this region was ceded, former President Olusegun Obasanjo was looking at the bigger picture now. Nigeria is bigger than this, and it's something that you can just let go and all of that. How do you think this revisiting the case will affect, international relations?
Incidentally, President Bola Tinubu is also doing the same thing, if I may say, because some of the steps he has taken already, even though I don't know what his master plan is, but some of the steps he has taken already, like reversing to the old national anthem, are indicators that he is interested in the fabrics of Nigeria. And I do not think, I won't be surprised if I wake up tomorrow and see him pursuing this matter. This is also part of the global picture for Nigeria. If we inherit that region now, we'll make more resources from it, which is also, don't forget that the economy of a nation is defined by its politics. Yes. So I see that as an opportunity that President Bola Tinubu can also explore. Yes.
Now, especially going by, the hostilities there. I understand, since the secession, there has been this, I don't know whether it is actually part of this, but there is this Anglophone, Ambazonia kind of, I don't know how related are the issues, because those Nigerians there, is it Nigerians or they are citizens of Cameroon wanting to opt out. So how does this connect? Is there any?
There's a connection.
Okay.
There's a connection. Let me draw your attention to the fact that the Anglophone-speaking part of Cameroon was originally part of Nigeria. You can recall the history of NC. They were part of Nigeria. So if you call them Nigerian citizens, Nigeria and Cameroon. So if you call them Nigerians, they're not out of place. Even though the UN is saying that you should leave the boundaries as they are, but certain developments recently are saying that provision of the UN is no longer tenable. Certain new territories have been created. Old boundaries have been readjusted. New boundaries have been created between nations. So there's a connection between the Anglophone Cameroon agitation under Ambazonia and what is going on. And if they seek to join Nigeria, who are we to say no? If they volunteer to join Nigeria, it's just a case of organizing a plebiscite there. And if they agree, the UN will naturally cede that part of Cameroon to Nigeria, even though France will resist that.
Certainly. Now, looking at, is sort of say, beating a dead horse, or trying to revive a dead horse, or whatever you call it. But then, looking at the picture, and perhaps the role also that can be played by international bodies like the United Nations. They are midwives, if you like, to this judgment and so on. What role do you think can be played here? Because if this cause continue to persist, and then the possibility is also possibility for the revisit is also mounting, or that becoming more interesting. Certainly, it will also add to the current conflict and so on. So how do you think the United Nations can wade in and perhaps do something that will douse the tension?
Let me say that the United Nations may not have any direct role to play in this matter. They don't have any, because they are under their setting. They are not. They don't have the right to interfere in the internal affairs of sovereign nations. So they may not be able to come or to do anything in particular. But I think that what needs to be done is that this agitation must be hyped a little. People should start talking about it. The Nigerian government should show particular interest about it. Don't just throw it away. Ask the people what they want. Ask people to give their opinion and see whether the possibility of, reopening the case, starting a new one, or resting it forever with the settlement of those who have been returned to Nigeria. Yes.
Okay. In a couple of minutes, we'll open the lines, perhaps to also get Nigerians to react, especially from that axis. I would have loved to see people calling from, that area and Cross River State and tell us their experience, because, they've been facing a lot of challenges, without being mentioned. I read the interview granted by the paramount ruler there, and it was talking about how they were neglected, they were left on their own and so on. We'll open the line shortly, but then let me get your perspective, because many will not understand. If you said Nigeria can revisit, you are talking about appeal. So how can Nigeria appeal this, or how can the the parties, that is, if the people would, decide to appeal, how would they appeal? Looking at the hierarchy of this court, the International Court of Justice, is there any superior court, or how does it happen?
Yeah, so the procedure may not be on the table right now.
Okay.
But the issue, there's a provision under the statute of the ICJ that allows people to come back to it to say, oh, this and this didn't happen at this point and this point. And I'm saying that don't forget that jurisprudence operated at the ICJ is not the same that is operated within the local parlance. Within the sovereign nation of Nigeria. So the word revisit may have to be redefined.
Okay.
Like I said, it does not exclude new suits. And that new suit may not have Nigeria as the petitioner or the applicant. It may have the indigenous people of Bakassi, who are residents in Nigeria, as a subject. And the matter of these issues will be canvassed. And since Nigeria is the beneficiary of whatever the outcome, they will naturally be drawn into it. So it's possible under Article 61, barring what may be the difficulties there. But I think that the possibility of opening it is there.
Okay. It's about time we engage the people to also call and share their thoughts. The number will be on your screen shortly. Call and tell us, what you feel about this. Renewed calls on the Nigerian government to revisit the Bakassi ruling by the ICJ. This is an oil-rich region that has been ceded to Cameroon following the court judgment. So you can call and share your thought with us on this important topic. Now, talking about the authorities, you did say, the federal government has a good ground. And now, even the lawyer has alluded to that. He said that what gave him the courage, rather, to ask the government to revisit this was the fact that there has been some landmark, judgments that favored, the federal government. He was citing the local government autonomy,
yes,
which was canvassed by the Attorney General and his team, and they were successful. Looking at the current team of legal experts, working with the federal government, do you see them also taking interest in this?
I see them doing that. First of all, I was surprised that the Attorney General could go as far as testing those sections of Section 7 and Section 162 of the 1999 Nigerian Constitution in the Supreme Court. As relates to local government autonomy.
Is there any? Should it be? Because some would say it's already part of it, because the previous arguments put forward, or rather, the suits filed by the states were actually, he was the one that represented the states, those previous cases, that is between states and the federal government regarding the autonomy. So he's a familiar terrain, some would say.
Yes, he is. And I give him some credit on that. This local government autonomy case. Yeah. And if you see the level of argument that was presented and the reasoning, which persuaded the Supreme Court to even go, interpret the word shall as not being compulsory, just to make sure that the intent of the Constitution was achieved. Those are excellent things that has happened. I think the Attorney General should, if he's not thinking about it, let him think about it. Like I said, for whatever is what, review it. Get scholars to share their opinion on it. Get practitioners to put their impression on it. Try writing a mock petition and see what can come out of it. Set a panel, one for, one against, and let them argue it out and see whether there's anything that can come out of it. And I'm saying that this is a possibility. What can be achieved is like we said, defining the word revisit. Either a fresh suit.
You're talking about reclaim now.
Yes, reclaim.
So how do you is it about reclaiming, or first you have to revisit before you reclaim?
Yes. Calling the idea, using the word reclaiming may just put more pressure on it. But revisiting the case, the issue of reclaiming will come out naturally.
So you look at the judgment and then make a case out of it.
Yes.
And then submit to who now? To the ICJ?
Yes, you go back to the ICJ. The ICJ has very wide jurisdiction under Article 36. But the important thing I want to draw your attention to is that there's the major line dividing civil law and the criminal law is the ability of the person who is approaching the court to paint a picture that looks persuasive. That's the beauty of the civil law. And ICJ operates on the basis of civil law. I mean, as distinct from criminal law. You know, once you're able to have an argument that's persuasive, you can approach the ICJ.
Yeah, I think I've had, you know, the lawyer talking about it. They said it can be open once there are new grounds.
Yes.
I mean, established grounds.
Yes.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, good evening. Hello. Oh, okay, we lost that call. Okay, keep trying. The number is on your screen. Especially people from Cross River State, you know, the Bakassi local government was one of the local governments in Nigeria. It's still a local government, right? Among the 774 local governments.
Yes.
But I had an argument from a lawyer. Is it a lawyer who said that that local government is no longer existing in Nigeria? The fact that the region has been ceded. So Nigeria now has 773 local government. I don't know.
Incidentally, I can't address that issue now, but what I want to say is correct. Based on the constitution has not been amended. As of today, the constitution still reflects the 774 local governments, and that local government is still there. So until the constitution is amended, that local government is existing, even if it's not in fact is in rem.
Yeah, even though there could be also an argument that, you know, it is not everyone in that local government that has left for, I mean, that has joined the Cameroon. So it may still exist despite the fact that, okay, I think it's about time we take a break. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Sunday Politics. And today we're looking at the renewed call on the Nigerian government to reclaim, as they say, you know, the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula, a region, you know, that was ceded to Cameroon in 2008, you know, as a fallout of an international Court of Justice ruling of 2002, which you know, gave the Cameroonians that disputed region. And I've been interfacing with Barrister Chukwudi Odoeme. He is a professor of international law. Together we'll be looking at the issues very closely. Now, Barrister, let me get your, I mean, Nigerians would want to know, perhaps, how these laws, you know, applied. This international, you know, it's a new terrain. Nigerians are used to, I mean, so is there anything perhaps that the local courts can do, you know, from the lower up to the Supreme Court, or they don't have any jurisdiction on this?
Let me say that international law is not new at all. The only thing is that until you have a need, you know, to approach the supranational bodies, you may not come in contact with it. But then, there's nothing the local courts can do.
Okay, they lack jurisdiction in this.
Yes, they don't have any jurisdiction in this because this is a dispute involving territory outside Nigeria, as it is at the moment. So the local courts do not have a jurisdiction to entertain any issue regarding, you know, reclaiming Bakassi or revisiting that case, whatever that word revisit means.
Yeah. What about the Boundary Commission? You know? Significantly, the Boundary Commission is largely involved in the demarcation and all of that, understanding the boundaries. And there was also argument at that point that the Commission didn't do well in terms of representing Nigeria at The Hague, advancing or rather canvassing, you know, real issues that would have given Nigeria victory. Do you agree, subscribe to that argument?
I wouldn't want to say yes to that. I wouldn't want to say yes to that because the Boundary Commission is not a law firm and it's not the Ministry of Justice.
Yeah.
So it's only when you arrange your case that you will be able to tell them this is exactly what we're looking at, what can you do? So the Boundary Commission, of course, is a Nigerian establishment. So its responsibility does not extend to the Bakassi Peninsula anymore since the ceding of the Bakassi Peninsula to Cameroon. So what their responsibility is within the boundaries, you know, as relates to boundaries of Nigeria as presently constituted, not boundaries of places we think we can have access to. So their responsibility does not touch and border on the Bakassi Peninsula as at the moment.
Right. Okay. In case you're watching, you can call in. The conversation is now expanded to also accommodate views from Nigerians, especially those living in the Bakassi area, Bakassi local government of Cross River State, who are affected by this international court judgment. 22 years after, this matter is still resurrecting, and legal practitioners like Odoeme are saying that there are new grounds that can be explored. So beyond what the interpretation of, or rather beyond the whole speak in that agreement, the Anglo-German agreement, are there also other grounds that can be explored?
Yeah, I have mentioned that before, that the most auspicious of all the grounds that can be used to, open discussions in this Bakassi Peninsula has to do with the indigenous people of Bakassi. Okay. That's the most potent.
Okay.
I know. The indigenous people of Bakassi. People were living there. It was not in dispute whether they were Nigerians or not. Even if it was in dispute, it was a matter of finding out which country they owed allegiance to. They paid taxes to Nigeria. Most of them are from Cross River. They bear names like Apan, Okon, Inyobong, and the rest of them. They had their historical relationship with the people of Cameroon, with the people of Cross River State. When they were displaced from Bakassi, they returned home to Cross River State. So those people are the ones who have the most auspicious rights to lean on to reopen conversations around this Bakassi Peninsula. And I think that right has not been exhausted. In fact, it has not been on the table because it was not canvassed as the ICJ at that session. Yeah. So it is still potent, it is still open. And I urge the Nigerian federal government to look at it, particularly as we are struggling with our economy now. If we get back Bakassi, I'm sure that a few more barrels of oil will add to our daily production.
But how have we been managing? Even the one we have, it's still subject of controversy. Yeah, but even though it's
that's a business for another day.
Yeah, it's a plus. It will add value to what Nigerians have been looking for.
Yeah.
Now. There's also argument around the fact that, just like you said earlier, looking at the condition of the people there and the promises made to them. I listened to the paramount ruler who said that their initial reaction, was subdued by the fact that they were told that arrangements have been made, to relocate them. They will be resettled properly, and there is also concern around their vocation. They are largely fishermen who live, on waters, and of course that's the source of livelihood that's been taken away. So how do you think, the Nigerian government can face these issues, because they also have their rights within the state, to thrive as a people?
Yeah, you see, the danger here is that no matter how rich the Nigerian government is, Nigerian government may not succeed if it goes to take care of people's everyday lives, like feeding them, providing them allowances or salaries when they are not working, and the human body is not designed to function that way.
So they're not entitled to things like compensation now. Is that what you're saying?
I don't see where that will be coming from. Who will be compensating them? Is it the Cameroon? Is it the UN? Is it Nigeria?
Well, okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Trust TV.
Yes, good evening. Who do we have on the line?
How are you? Mohammed from Hadija.
Hadija, okay.
I want to make some comment.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. Please, why can't these people fight for their rights? That's the problem we are having in this country. We just have rulers in this country that they don't have interest of areas. They just have their own personal interest. Look at what happened recently in London. That criminal Sunday was arrested in Cotonou, and people, these Yoruba people, move ahead and bail him. He kill Nigerians, kill security men, and they sponsor him to UK and saw the Prime Minister while Kanu is there agitating in the prison and allowing somebody to do this nonsense while Tinubu is the London at that time. These people have to fight for their rights and get their own personal country. People don't need them. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm trying to.
I got him. The question is simple. He says, why can't the people fight for themselves? This is a big question. Now, let me hazard an answer. Now, there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Where people are placed depending on their ability to take care of themselves and so on and so forth. I want to believe that the returnees from Bakassi and perhaps those who are living in Bakassi now may be at the lowest rung, where they are fighting for their daily feeding,
But
daily bread.
We did mention here that they also have representatives at the parliament. So why can't their representatives have raised some of these issues? Even the Ambazonia thing, crisis, it was at the parliament that representatives talked about how, their constituents are under attack or are being threatened and all of that.
I won't be able to address that because I don't even recall who is representing that part of Cross River State in the National Assembly at this point. But when Itagewa was there, it was something that was in the forefront. Everybody knew her. Everything about her was about Bakassi. But then going back to what they answering the question of what why can't the people represent themselves? I don't think they have the capacity. People who are not properly settled, living in makeshift buildings, probably feeding from hand to mouth, having their source of livelihood removed from them. They are not thinking straight. They might not even know what to do. I'm sure they are lost. They need help from someone who is outside there, perhaps the Cross River State government, like I'm saying, or well-meaning people of Nigeria, or even somebody who is representing them in the National Assembly at this point. Those are the people who might whip up this sentiment and make this issue an issue to be discussed even in the Nigerian National Assembly. And that might give traction to the conversation.
Talking about diplomatic involvement or rather engagement, so many things have been happening, behind closed doors. For instance, the recent release, if you like, of this gentleman, the Gambarian, the guy who has been running this crypto. I'm trying to recall. Binance. Has left much to be desired. Many Nigerians are wondering how such will happen, because this is a man who is already before the courts of law, facing legal charges and so on. But suddenly, there was some sort of resolution of the matter behind closed doors, and he was discharged and all of that.
I don't know how that happened, but I also recall that the Attorney General of the Federation, under the powers vested on him by the 1999 Nigerian Constitution, has a power to discontinue a suit at any time. I want to give him credit that he would have found good reasons why that matter should not be continued. Then again, if you look at the possibility for plea bargaining, within the criminal justice system in Nigeria at this point, I don't know the procedure, whether that was what happened. But then I
was looking at perhaps international. Sort of diplomacy now, international engagement.
We haven't been told what happened. But then I want to believe that since it's a criminal matter in court, the Attorney General knows what is going on. And I want to give him that credit that he knows what to do, including using the Office of Knowledge Prosecute, invested on him by the Council of Nigeria to discontinue.
But Nigerians also need to know, because it's something that affects Nigerians.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that in the days to come, they will come out with details of what happened.
And why that has to be, such decision has to be taken.
Yes, I'm sure they will make that available to Nigerians in the days to come.
Okay.
Even though the Attorney General does not, assuming the Attorney General was the one who issued the knowledge prosecute, he doesn't owe us the responsibility to explain why. Just to put the record straight.
Okay. In all of this, you cannot rule out, the possibility of some of those engagements behind closed doors and so on, because it happened. Coincidentally, it happened after Mr. President, came back from that trip and so on. So some are looking at it from that perspective, that perhaps there was an engagement somewhere that because Nigerian government was all out, saying that he has to face the law and all of that, and suddenly, the matter was.
It won't be out of place if there's a diplomatic hand in what is going on, and diplomacy is allowed at every level, including resolving criminal and civil matters. So if that is what has happened, it wouldn't be completely out of place. I think what they owe Nigerian citizens is just a snippet of what happened.
For them to get
for the matter to be put to rest and not cited as an example for anything infamous.
But how much of that Nigeria is doing? Because you find out that a number of Nigerians have been prosecuted outside the country, and some even have to face capital punishment and so on. In most cases, without intervention.
Yeah, but then Nigeria is beginning to wake up to its responsibility to its citizens outside Nigeria. Abike Dabiri has done wonderfully well in that. She's been everywhere talking about. In fact, she's the one who lets us into what is going on. And I think that if what happens, I'm not speaking for her, but or her ministry. I think that if such things are brought to the to public knowledge, particularly to the people affected, people who have responsibility to speak, I'm not sure that Nigeria will not be willing to intervene.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Barrister Chukwudi Odoeme, for your informed perspective and for giving us insight on some of these international legal issues and how they. How they are being handled and all of that. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
And that's a wrap on today's edition of Sunday Politics. Join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another topic that is on daily politics. You can also continue to follow us across all our social media platforms for the latest in news and also programming. Thank you very much for being there. I am Shafi'u Suleiman. Good evening.